So, thank you very much for making time to share your insights into the future of leadership. But before we walk into the future, can you please tell us a little bit about your own background? Where did you grow up?
Thank you, Dr. Nick, for an opportunity. I grew up in a town called Umlazi. It's in KZN, south of Durban. Yeah, that's basically where I had my foundation in terms of all the lower grade into high school. All the schooling I did in Umlazi.
And what was your dream career, Steve, when you grew up?
I was surrounded by people that were in the creative industries. I mean, I look at my aunt, she was in the acting business. I look at my uncle, he used to play theater and play guitar. So I grew up in that environment of creativity. And I knew that one of my dreams was going to be in the creative space, strategy/creative space. And I would recite adverts, old ads on TV, we would sing, with my siblings. So I had a dream that one day I will be the best creative, I'll be one of the best, creative and story narrator, purely because that's what I got exposed to as I was growing up. So that was one of the dreams, that if I don't make it in the, definitely in the acting industry, I must be somewhere placed where I am able to be creative and, and thrive on and showcase my creativity. So acting was one of those, and that it didn't go that way, I must say. However, I'm still not too far off from the dream that I wanted to be, to be a creative person that inspire other people, and exemplary to the people in my community. And I think some of the dream really does come to life when I look at my life right now.
Well, they say the world is a stage and we're all actors, right?
Absolutely, why not?
So who inspired you in your early days?
Dr. Nick, I grew up in a township back in the days, that was in in the late 70s, early 80s, when I started school. And the role models that I had were people really around me. So my biggest role model is my grandmother. May her soul rest in peace. I say role model because there was one person who taught me hard work. She taught me things that money cannot buy. So the values, the character, how to carry yourself, and those are priceless. Because I am who I am today, I look back and I say the foundation in which I come from, she played a crucial role in that. She inspired me to be a hardworking person, to respect life. I respect people, I respect money. She used to say, anything that you respect, it will respect you back. But also she was a career woman, even though she was in the health space, but she played her part. She also was in education, where she created her own preschool, like a creche for communities in Umlazi. And her crutch thrived, and more people knew, and they could associate that crutch with her. So I really think, for me, in terms of values and showcasing that, on believing that the sky is the limit, you can turn around what is flat and make it absolutely uphill if you wanted to, or you can really create something that is impossible and make it possible. So she is the reason behind the character that I am. The resilient character that I am.
Right. And you're having a very impressive brand leadership career. You started at Tiger Brands and then moved to Unilever and Pioneer Foods, Nempec, and today you're the CEO of Brand South Africa. So looking back over your career, would you say there was a major turning point, or maybe a number of turning points where things could have gone different?
So my first turning point, I would say it happened when I joined Tiger Brands, because I was first in a training program. So it was Dumpling training program then. where, you know, I got to experience different cultures, different environments in marketing, to find my niche or to find what I was more passionate about. So I did sales, for instance, at SABC as part of my training. I worked at Reckitt & Coleman, which is now Reckitt & Benkiza. So I've disclosed my age there. I worked in different, you know, like FMCG and then in service, and I even worked at ESCOM for that matter. So I was quite clear that I think I'm more passionate about FMCG. There's a lot to learn. And then my breakthrough came after the training program, when I then got offered a position at Tiger Brands. First, it was Beacon before Tiger Brands merged with all other marketing entities in their divisions. So I was based in Durban working with sweets, you know, and obviously, you know, from marketing of sweets, I fell in love, and then I grew up the ranks to managing the Crew brand, which is one of the biggest brands in the food category. And then I went to Jungle as well, the porridge or the breakfast rather category. Then I moved to obviously the other companies and other FMCGs. Again, it really is about, Nick, learning to deal with different audiences, learning to deal with different insights, and being able to adapt. So whether it's a nappy, where I've been promoting nappies, or whether it's bread, it's breakfast, the fundamental is the adaptability. And I think I've learned a lot working in these different scenarios. And then up until I had a defining moment, and I'm calling it a defining moment because it tapped into what I'm passionate about when I joined Brand South Africa in 2011. I think now it's at the peak of my career, where I'm now doing not only marketing, but I'm doing more purposeful marketing. So the work that I do goes beyond bottom line, for instance. It's not about me chasing profit margins, but it's about me impacting lives in how people see South Africa, and also tapping into their own strength and understanding that they have a role to play in shaping the reputation of South Africa. So how the world sees South Africa entirely depends on the minds and the actions of citizens. And having to work in the space now for 10 years and being able to get buy-in from South Africans to rally behind the brand. And then they do that through our program that we call Play Your Part, which is the reason why I'm here now, and perhaps I've stayed this long. It's really about passionate and purpose. And I believe I'm in a space and in a platform, in an environment that is enabling me to drive in that space.
So Steve, would you say nation branding has a lot to do with nation building?
Absolutely, you can't depart the two. They are interlinked, because for you to have a driving economy, a driving nation, you have to work inward. So it's an inside out strategy. You first fix things at home. You get South Africans to believe in the brand South Africa. You get South Africans to live the brand. And when you do that, in such a harmonious way, I can tell you, Dr. Nick, that it's going to be easy then for us to tell the world, to say, come and invest in South Africa, because we understand that we are fixed, or we're busy fixing, our business at home. Can you imagine if it was just focused only international, our mandate, that we invite investors to come and invest in South Africa, and yet we have not fixed the basics? I think it's a disaster. It's a recipe for disaster. So nation building is part and parcel of rallying people behind the vision of South Africa and making them understand that this is what we would like to ultimately achieve, and get them to buy into that vision and be walking on that journey with us as Brand South Africa, who is tasked with this mandate of promoting South Africa's image globally as well as inwardly. So for me, I really think the one cannot live without the other. Right. Nation building is part of nation branding.
And would you agree, Steve, that maybe this is the best time for nation branding, because the pandemic really has leveled the playing fields, right? For every single country.
Absolutely, absolutely. So now what it does, it says, as we understand, most countries' economies are built on tourism. And guess what COVID did? Disrupted everything. Now it actually says, what more can you tap into as a country? And it forces us to look beyond, the easiest cells. So for South Africa, we are very much blessed in that our economy is quite diverse. So it's not only tourism that we rely on in our GDP. You look at our GDP construct, you see there's services, there's manufacturing, there's mining, and we do good in the financial sector. So there's quite a number of things that we can latch on, including our people, our culture, to then try and also look inward and say, how do we promote the made in South Africa? Because that's where I think the change will come from. If people are not wrong at touring countries, then you better get your own people to buy into your country and promote probably South African made products and services. So I think we are in a good space in that, yes, tourism has been impacted, but if we look beyond tourism, there are other opportunities that we can embark on and latch on and utilize those as our unique selling propositions in promoting South Africa.
So Steve, what would you say is driving you today?
What drives me today? Sure. It's unpredictability of events, unpredictability of life in general. I can tell you now, Dr. Nick, you don't know what is going to be happening in the next month because we don't know the mutations, for instance, of COVID-19 would be. So, and also being on your toes because everything is suddenly unpredictable gives birth to innovation. It gives birth to a new way of doing things constantly. And I think I'm in that space where I'm in this role that I'm currently in. I never envisaged it. And it just came and I thought, wow, so this is the new way of doing things, being able to embrace change, being able to embrace change very fast. So speed becomes important there for me. So for me, this has given birth to a new way of doing things, whether it's in the digital space or it's in how we promote brands or market our brands. But definitely it's a wonderful time to be alive in, because from discomfort comes great innovation.
Absolutely. And South Africa has for a long time been a land of innovation and the land of innovators, I believe.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose the challenge then is, how well do we tell that story? And how well do we provide those reasons to believe? Really, it is quite inspiring to see South Africans, globally doing amazing things, and they still remember to wear that flag and they wear it with pride. It tells you that South Africa is really a place of endless possibilities. Yes, so that's what sets us apart from the rest of other countries. We have this, and we also have the right characters and the right attitude to take us through in realizing and bringing these possibilities to life. And the world is always in awe. They always look at us and in South Africa, it doesn't end in sports, it doesn't end in creative arts. We also in the innovation, science and technology, the goodwill. In the nation brand space we talk about, we follow the Good Country Index, and we know, what sets countries apart is what they do for the rest of the world. So it's not always about inward looking. And I think South Africa is in that space. When you consider that in the African countries, we are the only countries that sit in certain strategic platforms or alliances, such as BRICS, such as your G20s and so forth. There's just so much. And when we sit there, it's not only South Africa, we're wearing a hat of South Africa and the rest of the continent, because we truly believe that the African growth story starts in South Africa.
Right. And we all know humanity was born in this country. So maybe
absolutely.
Maybe humanity will be reborn in South Africa.
Absolutely. Why not? It's part of our ethos. It's part of our DNA. I am because you are.
Right.
And I know there was a time where the world was uncertain after the passing of Nelson Mandela. People were saying, but what will become of South Africa? We've shown the world that, what you did not know or you undermined was that Mandela gave birth to a lot of other Mandelas. So you will find that we have forefathers, foremothers that they've played their part so much that they've given birth and they've created legacies. in terms of people carrying the baton, generations to come carrying on that baton. And that is what is beautiful about being South Africa, because wherever you see a South African, because whenever you see South Africans, whether it's in US or it's in India, there's always one thing that connects you. And they always speak about, you know, when in our research, they tell us it's Ubuntu. So the humanity aspect that you are referring to, Dr. Nick.
Thank you. Now stay looking into the future. And I know it's a big question, but what does the future of leadership mean to you?
That's an interesting question. You know, as you ask me that question, in my mind, I see, you know, Edelman Trust Barometer, because I know the issues that most countries are faced with. Future of leadership, to me, is very simple. You cannot divorce it from, you know, from visionaries. I see future of leadership. I see leaders that are visionaries, and as they are visionaries, they are led with empathy, and they are led with integrity. And why I'm touching on those values, because you can be as a great leader, but if you don't have the right values or character that supports, you know, the vision, it's going to be, you're going to have a hard time as a leader trying to get that right. So future leadership definitely for me is about, you know, being a visionary, is about making sure that as you are a visionary, you also have that self-drive ability, and you can also embrace change. As I said earlier on, embracing change and be decisive. Nothing kills leaders than having a leader that cannot make a decision. And there is no worst character for a leader if a leader cannot have the ability to decisively, you know, you must make informed decision, whether it's wrong or right. The worst that could happen is that you can learn from those. So the future of leadership for me as well is really, when I speak about that adapting to changes, is knowing that right now the world is online. So what does it mean from a digital perspective? You know, leaders have to be adaptable in that sense, that understanding the dynamics that, you know, there's so much trading can happen online. There's just so much things that can happen. But the question is, are we having the right people? And obviously the communication, which is quite key. Communication, a leader cannot be a leader if they don't communicate. So at the center of it all, therein lies communication. But the future of leadership, definitely, Dr. Nick, is online, it's robots, it's strange, imaginable innovation, it's creativity. That's where it lies, I think, purely because we can see for what has happened in the past 2 years. And one would have a hard time believing that going forward, you know, the old days of going to the office and having, you know, full staff turnover, seated at the office, it's all over. That we are now into hybrid, and we're looking at innovative ways of try and fit into this new lifestyle. So that's where in my mind, I see leadership going.
And what have you learned from your own journey, your own leadership journey, that you consider most important for building and empowering future leaders?
Personally, I've learned the one thing I always say: I don't bite more than I can chew. It sounds very basic, but it's very important, because if you don't bite more than what you can chew, it means you are somebody that is, we almost have a pragmatic approach, but also blending, very organized, and learning that, you know, we all have different journeys and experiences. So your journey, Dr. Nick, might take you quick, you know, mine might take years to get into what I'd call, you know, where my dream job would be, for instance. But my lesson has been to understand that we are all different, and as such, our journeys are different, but do not lose sight of the prize. Do not lose sight of your focus on where ultimately you want to go. So that's why I appreciate and know that every moment brings its own challenges and growth, but have the eye to see both the good and the bad, and have the ability to change the bad and make it work for you. So I really think, for me, that's what I have learned is the basics, is the character that will take you through any industry, and being open to learning. It doesn't mean because you are a leader, you know everything. One of the beautiful things that I've learned is that being a leader that is not chasing titles, but a leader that is able to swim with her people and be able to learn from her people is what has shaped who I am today.
Right. And Stay, when you speak to aspiring leaders, what do you tell them about social media? How should they navigate social media to build their own leadership brand?
First, they must start by being authentic.
Right.
Social media, some of our leaders, I can tell you, they're not social media savvy. Yeah. They don't even have profiles. They have somebody managing those profiles. So those people basically become the mouthpiece, their mouthpiece. I think my advice is simple. The world has gone online. So empower yourselves as leaders to be able to understand the nuances, to understand, the trends, the dynamics in the space of digitalization. When we speak of digitization and digitalization, what do we say? In social media, being able to use social media as a tool for positioning, as a tool for creating your own brand and being able to position the brand and being able to then promote the brand. I think most leaders need to understand. You almost want to bring them back to the basics of, the P's in marketing, that literally social media has become that's why you're starting to find new entrepreneurs, new people that are, the businesses is booming via, for instance, Instagram. Why is that? Because people have adapted to the fact that, let's cut out the red tape. Let's cut out the red tape of having my business, registered and that whole long-winded process. I can just simply go online and share my product and my brand. So I think it's important that leaders understand that the role of social media goes beyond just being almost like it's a newsroom type of an approach. It is a strategic platform that can be utilized for positioning, brand positioning, business positioning, but also building image and reputation, so they can build their own reputable and whilst also promoting positive content. So it's to really understand that section of, or that side of social media that I find mostly leaders, they tend to outsource it. And when you immediately outsource, there's one thing that you lose authenticity.
Right. Now, Stay, these are challenging times. And what is your advice for future leaders in terms of challenges? What are some of the biggest challenges they should expect to encounter in their career?
Sure. The biggest challenge is there's just so many, Dr. Nick, because number one, you work with different personalities, you work with different, it's personalities, it's people, and they are each driving their own agenda and their own objectives. So I think what is important is to really, in the space of leadership, is the ability to understand people at a personal level. So there's something that I always, articulate that's down in my memory lane. One of the mentors also taught me that, when we have passionate people, right? That we have passionate people with a passionate ambition, you really can win customers for life. So what I try and do is one of the easiest things that you can do, or really not so taxing, it's really to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. It sounds biblical, it sounds like, oh, it's it's one of those nice things to say, but that's very important, because right. If I can put myself in Dr. Nick's shoes, then I'm able to understand you at a level that probably resonates and creates harmony. So leaders have to have the ability to have that character, and I know that natural leaders are born with it, that the interpersonal skill, what is classified as interpersonal skills, but it goes beyond that. It's hard work. Understand that some of those challenges are definitely going to be people not buying into your vision, or people that are just going to be stumbling blocks, but such is life. In life, there's never a time where you see that, oh, my life is free of challenges. It would be boring. So my advice is life is boring without challenges. Embrace those challenges, grow from those challenges, whether they come from people or whether they come from external environment, turn them around and make them work, because there's always that solution.
Right. And if you were to design a curriculum for future leaders, what are some of the new skills you would want to factor in?
Whew, new skills. I'm laughing because when you start to ask me to write a curriculum, number one is going to be in slang. It's going to be different languages. But the skills that I would encourage right now to anyone is really around the digital skills, the online, improving themselves, improving yourself in the space or in the era of online and doing business online. And I think customer service will always remain at the center of it all, because it is the driver and the attractor of anything. So I think the skills that need to continue is definitely, from an online perspective, any causes and everything that that one can do to empower themselves, they must look for more online. I also think, academically, being able to choose subjects that are more relevant when one looks at what is happening in the world. We know we are faced with issues of health, we are faced with issues of climate change. So what does then one have to do, aligning their skills as well as with their academic records or a subject chosen, for instance, around the international relations, being able to have an open mind that says, I'm here and I'm able to dissect and be able to monitor or look and learn from external environments and in other countries. So those are the skills that I think are needed. And the skills of being a leader is there, it's that one. And obviously there's a character aspect that I keep on underlying, is that underpins it. It's somebody that is, obviously is integrity. There's integrity, somebody that can be trustworthy. And then really integrity says, say what you mean and mean what you say, and at the right time that you said you would do it. So for me, really, those are the skills: adaptability, it's online, international relations, so that you can be that visionary person that you want, or a visionary leader that you want to be. And really start to focus on entrepreneurship. Right. I think that's one important skill that can change the dynamics in South Africa, self-reliant and entrepreneurs, ability to give birth to new entrepreneurs, and not only just in the creative arts, but even in the innovation spaces, become, just having to come up with solutions for South Africa and the rest of the world. So entrepreneurship would also be one of my focus areas, and will be definitely, I'll dive in that in my vocabulary.
Thank you. And obviously we have some of the world's greatest entrepreneurs who were born on the soil.
Absolutely, of course, Elon.
Yes, certainly. Now, stay as a mentor to future leaders. Can you maybe share a success story or two where you mentored an upcoming leader and that person took your advice to heart?
Who comes to mind? Yes. There's a lady in one of my journeys in marketing, and there's a senior brand manager. I came across a marketing coordinator, and I actually don't mind sharing her name, actually, Miss Bridget Pierre, who for once was in marketing, interested in marketing, but needed to learn more. So what I do, I love to practicalize things, and my journey with her started in 2010 to 11, and today she is the head of digital for a very good medical aid company, and to me that shows the ability to be patient with somebody, but also to make sure that as you impart, because there's this mentality that we have as people that if I share my knowledge, I'm exploiting myself, or I become less of a powerful person. I think those are news of yesterday, and those are news basically that are not relevant in this day. And for me, it gives me so much pleasure knowing and understand that even though she's the head of digital, a brilliant position, she still comes to me and she still follows me on social media and still learn. And we still have our tea, sessions where we really discuss books, what are books, we know what sort of books to read, what are the dynamics in marketing. So that is my mentee. And I also have another one who also work for a multinational brand, essentially, and she's doing very well there. She's a group category manager. So again, it's a different thing, more sales with marketing, but again, it shows the ability that when you are ready to give birth and leave legacies, you have to be selfless. So, as a leader, training other leaders, you tell people less about the titles, because I've learned that people hide behind titles because they, I am Sithembile before I'm the, acting CEO of Brand South Africa. So stop, all these years you've been calling me Sithembile. Now because I'm in this position, you start to say CEO. I just think that's the mentality that I try and debunk in my mentees, and perhaps and that's why the mentees where they are so humble, they lead with humility, and they have, they are so human that it's unbelievable. And I think it's what I've been able to impart from myself and say, guys, let's work on this journey. And I continue to train them, and I attend certain events where every time I try and get at least assigned a mentee, because that is how, as stay, I am playing my part, so that I'm giving away my skills. I'm offering my skills and my time to somebody that needs it. And the two ladies that I've just mentioned, they've done, the other lady is Savita Kavinda, by the way, working for Palmolive Colgate. So, wow. and that those are big companies. The other one is Gems Medical Aid. So that tells you that, it's never impossible to believe in somebody's dream and creating a bridge for that person to grow. So I call myself and I position myself as that person. Even at Brand South Africa, I do have mentees, because I believe if somebody opened that door for me, who am I not to open that door? So I'm constantly looking for new doors. I'm constantly looking for people that want, to open up and explore these new doors, as long as they do it with them in a manner that's going to also have that ripple effect in them also finding other mentees, until we have a group of sisters and brothers that are able, to say, one day, that person was an integral part of my life, that person believed in me. And the two mentees that I've mentored, they've done that very well.
And looking back over your own leadership career and maybe your learning journey, who are the role models of leadership that you would suggest future leaders should study and learn from?
Apart, and I don't want, somebody, because I work for Brand South Africa, they'll say, you better say somebody from South Africa. Yes, there's quite a number of them in South Africa, but the one that comes to mind and how she redefined the rules of engagement, this is what we call paradigm shift. The Prime Minister of New Zealand. Yeah, I really admire her will, her character, her guts. I mean, when she defined the rules that, being mothers, because there's this notion that when you are a mother, you can't be a leader. No, definitely not. That's old school. I also I admire Wendy Luhabe. I think she's just one of those beautiful gems, perhaps that are under the radar and needs to be celebrated more. And I've got a lot of ordinary people that I admire, like every teacher that played a part in my life. I'm a product of Bantu education. And when I tell people that, and I tell people that are currently studying in the township, that your situation should not, for instance, prohibit you. It's your ability of a mindset to think that, positively and then be a dreamer. So I have a lot of those role models. And what would I be without spiritual connection, obviously, Dr. Nick? So therein lies in some mentors from my spiritual backbones. I do have, there's a Dorcas, who's the past Dorcas Tekla. She is also my great mentor. So what is different about me is that I don't have one particular. I have many, because from each I learn a piece of me that can get better.
And how can our listeners connect with you, and where should they follow you?
On LinkedIn, I am Sithembile Ntombela, very easy to find.
Yeah.
On Facebook, I am Sithe maNdaba, MANDABA. And that's where they can follow me. On Twitter, it's @the_Sithe, SITHE.
Right.
Yeah, let's engage and let's create beautiful, legacies.
Thank you. And last but not least, what is your message to the millions of kids out there who are now leaving school, who are now considering their first career? What are maybe one or two success principles that they should take to heart?
Something that I was never taught, but one of them is take yourself back to when you were growing up. What were you passionate about? What was your first love? And that is the career that you should be going towards ultimately, because you already are there, you were there, but you just have not connected the dots. Secondly, look at what is happening globally, and find your niche, find a gap, and therefore ask yourself, what can I do? If the world is moving this direction, what could be my specific role, and which academic field do I then go into? And not only academic, but what can I also do? Because as we say, you follow what the world and where the world is going, then you'll be able to know whether actually maybe I need to start my own, initiative or my own business. It's possible. So you look externally, what is happening around you, have the eyes, have the ears, and also take yourself back to when you were growing up and finding your passion. What is it that you've been passionate about? Because chances are, where there's passion, there's going to be growth, and that's how you're going to make money. It's going to be very easy to enjoy your career and even make money. So those are my two advice that I would give to the person right now. By the way, my daughter, I'm waiting for results tomorrow. She's a matric, so that's what I've told her. When she says, "Mommy, what do I do?" I said, "But you know your first love, you know what you're passionate about." And that immediately she did that exercise. She knew exactly what she would like to do.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights and your wisdom into the future of leadership and flying the flag high and making the world fall in love with South Africa.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nick. As I said, nothing beats South Africa, the culture, the people. There's just only one. So when they say there's only one you, there's only one country, that's South Africa. So yeah, come alive and feel the beat.
Thank you.